Hi, thanks for being here today with me, Shay Trey. We have a wonderful guest today on our Made Different series. His name is Melvin Adams. Melvin Adams is quite the musician, and he's been playing music since he was 5 years old. And of course, you guys already know that we tell stories of people who have overcome and made life doing great things. Just so they were in one place, maybe told that they could not survive, that they could not be great, but then ended up being great on the other end. And I think that that's worth celebrating. So hopefully, you guys can get in there with me on that one. I think that's worth being celebrated. Melvin,
Yes, ma'am.
where are you coming to us today from?
North Louisiana.
Okay, that's awesome, fantastic. So, as I was saying, you started when you were 5 years old. Like, what inspired you at 5 years old to begin music?
It's interesting to know that because actually my grandmother used to bring me over there to this store called Campo, and it used to have this music store called Worldlines, and it was both in the same location in Clairview, right there in Metairie. And it was just something that was, I guess, was extraordinary to me because I saw all the instruments there and just started wanting to just ding, 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 ding. And then before you know it, what I mean, I started liking it, and it was like when he saw that, it was like, like it kind of like was an eye opener, like, he must be really liking how he's doing with this music thing. So it was like it was a continuation. So from there, that's when I started, dealing with the music. And that's how I got, involved with, doing what I'm doing right now.
I love it. So, right now, let's talk a little bit about your family. So, you're married. Tell us a
Yes,
little bit
sir.
about your family.
I've been married now going on 34 years, and it's been great. It's been great. I mean, I can't ask for a better wife than what I have. She's very extraordinary, extraordinary person, and she always have been loving and kind to me as well as to my family. I couldn't have done this without her, so I thank God every day for the wife that the Lord has given me and had inspired in my life as well as been behind my back on every occasion.
Okay, I love it. And then you have some beautiful children.
Yes, ma'am. I have my son Melvin Adams Jr. and Shalon Reed.
Okay. So where you are now, it's in a good space where you and your family get to connect and work together in order to see the family go over to the next segment of your life.
I can see some very extraordinary things about to take place. Of course, God has given me a vision, and that vision is to be that leader, that role model as far as for my family is concerned, and to how God is now elevated me now to a whole nother level in my musical career. So I definitely believe that it's about to go to the next level. Matter of fact, it's taken right now into the next level to where now people now are being inspired by, not only what I'm doing musically, but also what I'm doing collectively in my uh, creativity in my music as well as playing.
Okay, well, let's kind of take it back a little bit because, like I said, this show is about people that have overcome. So, tell the audience a little bit about some of the challenges you had when you were a child, things that doctors might have told you or your parents, and how you kind of came through those things.
My life was a mystery. It really was because when I came into this world, they said I was a very sickly child. They had said that I had, slight brain damage, that type of thing, and that, I couldn't talk from a child. Matter of fact, I didn't start talking until I was around about 5 years old. And
Oh,
I went to a speech philosopher. Of course, they sent me to a special education research treatment center, used to call ERTC in New Orleans, Louisiana. And of course, at that time, I used to have a teacher they called Miss O'Connor. Of course, she was the one that showed me how to speak and whatnot. So But with all that being said, that was inclusive with, of me knowing how to deal with the music, so forth, so on, because I had an ear for music. So with that inclusive of singing, all that played a major part in my life. Yes, it was at that time, it was very, I want to say, depressing at one time, but then it also was expiring as another because I kept Christ in my life. And I thank God for the grandfather that I had because Melvin Morris, he always was into church. He was one of the head deacons at the church that I was originally baptized at the Providence Baptist Church number 2 in Muncie, Louisiana. And from that point on, I've been in church ever since. Inclusive of what I went through from a physically, mentally, as well as emotionally thing in my life, that played a very intricate part of my life, just knowing that I had God in my life and in my favor. So that had me to where I had a good head on my shoulder. I was able to deal with, the pressures of life, with the peers, so forth and so on. So that would really kept me more than anything, just knowing that I had Christ in my life and knowing that he brought me through to what he brought me through.
Okay, so when you were in school, there you did have some challenges with your peers, and so it sounds like you went to God for that. Was there any other support in that time?
Uh, not really, not really, because at that time I was really trying to find myself. Not saying that I didn't have the supportive system that I should have had, but there was a teacher, used to call her Pat Aguilar. She was my junior high teacher at the time, and I can't tell you how much of a great inspiration she was to my life compared to everything else that I was dealing with at that time through my teenage years. And also, I had a brother that I called like my brother. Me and him been like brothers since we was in elementary school. Otis Kenneth. Me and him used to always hang together all the time, and it's so ironic how our lives were at that time because both of our daddies wasn't really in our lives because they was killed at an early time of the time we was, growing up at that particular time in our lives. So I was always hanging together, you know, he also, played a very integral part in my life as well as going out to different places, so forth, so on. So I thank God too for just having that brother, like man to man, brother to brother, that knew the challenges that we had to face at the time we was growing up.
Yeah, I think that this is a really good story, Melvin. I mean, because people go through things and they have to have some kind of something or someone to say, okay, I can rely on you or have some kind of stability in their lives. So you knew your mother and father, however, you grew up mainly with your grandparents. So tell us a little bit about the life with them and how that helped you to become the man that you are today.
Well, like I say, I thank God for the grandfather that I had, because like I say, he was a great influence in my life as it relates to being in the church. My
Mhm.
grandmother, she was more of the disciplinary, if you want to say. What was going to come out was going to come out. Believe that. She was very defensive when it came down to, my life as a whole because of the fact of where I was and what I was going through at the time. She was really one of those grandmothers that didn't play when it came down to her grandchildren. You know, if she was gonna stand behind you, she was gonna stand behind you because her word would be like, if you tell the truth, I can stand for you. But if you lie, I can't tell the truth for you. So she was one of those kind of persons that I wouldn't say was that was overprotective of me, but she just was more of those type of persons that she didn't take any drama, put it like that. She was, like, hey, if this is what's going to take place to help my grandson to be where he's at today, I'm all for it. But now, if I figured that now you trying to play me and you trying to play games, I'm gonna tell you what time it is. So that's my grandfather was more on the, you know, on the lean side, was more on the, Christianity side, so to speak. He didn't expound on a whole lot of things like my grandmother did, but you make him mad enough, he'll tell you what he had to tell you in a
Well,
questionable
everybody,
way.
everybody,
Yeah, yeah,
I,
yeah.
I love how you shared that, Melvin. And we all need a grandmother and grandfather like the ones that you described, supportive, present. just making sure that you get the things that you need. That's we all need grandparents like that and parents like that for sure. So, so when you were, so you mentioned, uh, well, actually, I was reading your bio, and so you said that you had a song out when you were like 5 or 6.
Wait, say that again. Now I had a what down?
You had a song out when you were like 5 or 6.
No, actually, when I was 5, my first song I ever sung was "Soon and Very Soon We're Going to See the King."
Why don't you give us a little quick sample? Just 10 seconds. Come on, come on. Ah, come on, Minister of Music.
Soon and very soon we are going to see the King. Soon and very soon we are going to see the King. Hallelujah. Soon and very soon we are going to see the King. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. We are going to see the King.
All right, I'm ready. I'm ready for church. Hold on.
Yeah,
Here you go
yeah,
right now.
yeah, yeah.
That was beautiful. I love it. I love the cadence of your voice and how you just like you just I mean I have, yeah, I have bumps on, yeah, I got goosebumps. I mean, you brought me straight on to church. So
Mm,
that's the, yeah, that's what we need in
yeah.
this world right now.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at society as a whole and things that you see around you, of course you have great faith. So how do you encourage other people in your space, to not pay so much attention to the news, but kind of to stay in faith?
One of the things I would say, like I was saying on my Facebook page, say, don't be a fan of democracy, but be a servant of the Most High God.
Mhm.
Because no weapon that is formed against us shall prosper. It may form, but it won't prosper. And if God be for us, who can be against us? So the thing about it is, you trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge him, not the situation, and he will direct our path. Because you got to remember this, God will take care of those who he loves and that are obedient to his calling. So, however, no matter how the situation looks on the outside, God is more powerful within us on the inside because greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. And no matter what Goliath that we're facing, there's no power that is more greater than the power of the Most High God.
Well, we see why they call you the minister of music. You know that word. I love it. I love it. Um, so now, so whenever when so tell us about your, how did you become a minister of music? Who sought you out? How did they find you? How did they know you were, I don't know, a great young person that did music? How did they find all that out? How did you become a minister of music?
It started out when I was at Providence number 2 back in '76.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I was baptized in '76 under my pastor, none other my former pastor, Reverend Hilton Mitchell at the time. And Miss Dorothy Pettiscoe, who was my homegirl right here in Norco, Louisiana, she was the first person that actually let me started playing the organ with the U choir. Now you got to remember that's when months, when Norco was Norco. And however, at that time, I started playing on the organ. I couldn't play my foot on the foot pedal because at that time my leg was too short to hit the foot pedal on the organ, but I had the fingers. I could do a bass line like it was no tomorrow. And like I said, when I first started, I sung my first song, Soon and Very Soon We're Going to See the King. And however, we had like 100 and some people that was in the U choir at that time. And that's how it all got started. And I can remember Pastor Mitchell saying to the congregation one Sunday, he said, "You see this boy here?" He said, "This boy is going to wind up being somebody." And sure enough, when they heard me sing and play, the people was like in a maze, like they couldn't believe their ears. Like, wow. It was like it was an amazement to them to see a 5-year old can sing and play at the same time. So that's where it all started, right there in Muncie, Louisiana, over at the Providence number 2 Baptist Church, which of course my former pastor was the Reverend Hilton Mitchell.
Right. So then you got started there, and then how did the other churches learn about you and ask you, like, what was that process like? How did you become? Yes. to become a minister of music? How does that happen?
Uh, whew. Um, well, I had an Auntie Dorothy May that was my dad's sister, and she was at that time she was part of the ministry at that time. And whenever they would have like special programs and whatnot, they would call me to come and ask to do solos. And she would pick me up and bring me to all of these different churches through the, Tri-Parish area to sing. So that's how I actually got to be recognized. And from there, from singing solos, playing for different churches, being in different groups, you got to remember I was at that time when I was a teenager, I was in the group with Envision, Mount Zion Inspiration. That was quartet at that time, and we used to go all over the place and sing at the time when I was maybe about 16, 15 some years old. I was singing with the Mount Zion Inspiration, and we would go all across the waters, Morgan City, Thibodeau, Cologne, and Luling, you name it, that's where we was at. We was singing, and I was introduced to some of the greatest quartet singers there was, the Jackson Settlers. I can go on and on and on and on and on. Of course, they're deceased now. The founder that was Old Mountain Inspiration, he's deceased now. And of course, his brother deceased on last year. But however, yeah, that's how I was able to get known from people from all over the different churches. And then, of course, I started with Providence number two, left from Providence number two, went to play for Good Hope Baptist Church, Greater Good Hope Baptist Church, Calvary Baptist Church, uh, New Jerusalem in South Peak. So that's how people, actually had opportunity just to see the greatness of what God has given to me as far as gifted wise in the music industry. And then I started, going to some of these musical workshops and so forth, so on. So I was able to get known as well, with those kind of people from the music ministries that from across all over the nation, just coming to the musical workshop in New Orleans and learning from, just some of the things that they was incorporating as far as being instructed on what music ministry was all about, so forth, so on.
Okay, I love that story. So I'm thinking about like a lot of times whenever we do something special, we have a person that we want to that we look up to in the industry. Are there some people in the industry that have really helped to shape you or that you've kind of patterned yourself after in any way?
Yes, matter of fact, this recent, my boy Kevin Lampton, that is actually one of the musicians at Bishop Martin of Church, Paul S. Martin. He came to the concert that Friday night, and he has a podcast with positive, no negative, no more excuses, and he always be there on Monday mornings. And he was just sharing, with the people on his podcast of how I was a great inspiration in his life. See, because he remember when I had a flat top, and he said how I would be on both keys playing and singing, and he was like, yeah, Melvin is actually the one inspired me to start playing on keys. Now you gotta remember this was somebody that was playing on percussion. He wasn't
Okay.
even playing on boards at that time. And he was on my cousin on my daddy's side of the family, Prophet Antoine Jasmine, up there in the Place, Louisiana. And he said, yeah, he said Melvin was really the one that inspired me to start playing music. And you got to think about too, there were so many other young people that was behind us at the time that, we inspired as far as, those are playing keys, so forth, so on. So but yeah, he was one of the guys that brought it out to the people's attention on the podcast at that time, which was Monday Gone, of how, I was a great inspiration to him. And today, he's cold on keys. He might have been wrote about maybe 500 some odd songs, and that's not inclusive with the band that he had and the vocals that he had to sing behind his music with praise and worship.
Okay. So he kind of looked up to you and you looked up to whom?
I looked up to, I would say more
And musically.
music.
I
That's what I'm
mean,
trying to figure.
yeah,
I would say John P. Key was one of my favorite that I looked up to, as well as I would have say Hezekiah Walker,
Mm-hmm.
because of the creativity that they had and the style of music that they played. Because you got to remember, there's all types of music, when it come down to gospel music. And John P. Key was one of them that I really favored so much because, I mean, with his creativity, when he came out, Never Shall Forget What You Done For Me and Jesus Is Mine, and, one of the oldest, but it was goodies at the time, when we was
Mm-hmm.
coming up, because that's all we used to do with John P. Key stuff, you know. But John
Mm-hmm.
P. Key was just a bad man, jammer. He was bad. You couldn't take that away from him if you tried to. And another person I would say that at that time musically, like we used to see we used to be inspired with Raymond Miles.
Okay.
Raymond Miles, being who he was with all them gold chains he used to have on and whatnot. But when it came down to vocally as well as playing, the Negro was bad. Period. You couldn't take that away from him. I mean, he had, you know, he knew how to make them changes. You know how to get to them gears and so forth and so on. So things of that nature, people like that would really inspire me uh, in that music.
You recently had an event, so tell us a little bit about that.
Well, talking about for this Friday gone, that's
That event for the 24th.
okay. I did a musical workshop a few months ago over there by Highway Baptist Church under none other than Pastor Charles Otis. And I did a 3-day workshop over there. Of course, he's now the overseer of all the bishops and pastors and elders in that region under Paul S. Martin. And of course, he was the one that introduced me into coming to the full gospel conferences that they've been having. So I've been dealing with them now for about 2 years. We recently was under Bishop William Murphy at that time. Of course, he was the one that was the music minister of the Full Gospel Fellowship in New Orleans at the Convention Center in New Orleans. So now this year we are under Marvin Campbell, who is now the music minister now over the Full Gospel International Conference, and of course overseer Dorico that's in Detroit. He is the director over the Supermass Choir, which is of course his other two directors, Elder Marcy Fisher, who was the MC at the concert that I just recently had at the Bethlehem Baptist Church under none other than my pastor, the Dr. Pharrell Barron Sr. Of course, he is one of the directors over the Supermass Choir as well. So between those events as well as the gospel concert that I recently had, those were some of the recent events that I had, as well as doing something at the Undui Festival, which was of last year in October, as well doing the Gospel Festival across the river in Luling, of course, Ronnie Diggs, who is now deceased, that they do every year in May. So those was the recent events that I was in.
Okay, and so if you could take your music to the masses to celebrate God and to let people know that He's real, uh, would you want to do that? Would you
Whatever
be
he leads
open
me,
to it?
wherever he leads me, that's where I'll go.
I love that
Because
answer.
it's not about me. It's all about him. To build a church of God in our Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and all the most parts of the world that will make disciples for Christ, that will bear fruits for the kingdom. It's all about, bearing fruits for the kingdom. We never want to get to the point, and I want to say this to add to what you're saying. We
Mm-hmm.
never should get to the point in our lives where everything is consistent of us.
Mm-hmm.
Because once we think it's about us, then what we're saying that it's about us and not about God.
Right.
God is the one that gives us the gift to manifest into whatever we do in ministry. So when we're sowing seeds to the ground. So wherever we sow seeds to the ground, that's where you plant it, and that's where the people eat off of.
Right.
So whenever you humble yourself, as the scripture said, when you humble yourself, he will exalt you in due time. Not man, because man can put you up to here today and put you down here today. I'm gonna put it to you this way. It's not how high we jump, but it's how straight we walk once we hit the floor.
Ooh, I love. Ooh, ooh. We you need to coin that one, Melvin. You need to coin that one because yeah, you're right. I mean, it's one thing to get to a level where you have influence, and it's another thing to get to that level, have influence, and remember whose you are.
That's right.
Yeah, so
That's
that's
right.
totally, yeah, that's very important. I do have a beautiful picture of your family here. Is that okay if I share?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, this is your beautiful family. From left to right, is that Melvin Jr.?
Now Virginia's on the left hand side, my daughter's on the right hand, and of course Melentia is on the middle, and me on the other hand, standing
Okay,
right there by my daughter.
you guys are a sharp looking group. I also had let's see here, another video from music. Let's listen to this. Wow, that's fantastic. I mean, how many three levels of piano or organ
Man, look,
keys?
you'll be surprised by this. Look, it's funny how this happened because I was doing this at my first church, right? My first church that I
Mm-hmm.
played for. And I was just playing cards. And so I told Reverend Jackson was one of the ministers that's over at my first church at the Rising Star Baptist Church. I was saying, man, I said, you got a song in my spirit. And it's like, like you sitting down and like a vision that's coming over you. And you can just imagine like the band playing, the vocals singing, and you putting out the lyrics as you're doing it. So as I was playing it at the church, the lyrics just was coming through my head. And mind when I say this, I didn't write it down. I didn't put nothing on paper. It was just memorized in my head. And the second thing came to mind, like, okay, Lord, okay, if this is what you are visualizing for me to do, Lord, you show me the people who I should get to be a part of this thing that I'm trying to put out. So then that's when I mentioned it to Kevin Lampton. And he was like, man, you ought to just go for it. You ought to just go for it like that. So I went ahead and I did it, but before I did everything, I made sure it was copywritten before I did anything. I wasn't about to do no concert, none of that, if it was not copywritten. So I went and got it copywritten, called the people out, and the funniest thing about it, the people that I asked to come and do the concert, or matter of fact, wanted to be a part of the group, immediately told me yes. It was like they didn't have a second thought. Man, I would love to be a part of that. So from the people that was on instruments for his vocal, I mean, it was like no problem. We'd be there. And we must have rehearsed from February all the way to April. Matter of fact, a little later part of February on to April before the concert even began. Now, mind me when I say the vocals didn't know none of the songs, the musicians didn't know the songs, and I'm showing the musician in my mind creatively how to play it. It's giving the voices their voice on where to go at soprano, alto, tenor, baritone, whatever you want to think of, or where their parts need to be as I'm leading the song. So that's how we wind up getting the song out the way that we did. And it was so impressively done. When I tell you they got that song within 30 or 20 minutes, it was good. It was like it was already locked in a spirit like that. So that's
It
just how
sounds
amazing that came.
It sounds to me like you have lots of favor.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You have lots of favor.
Oh yeah.
So you do have a song out. Is Hold On, is that it?
Hold On is the single that I have out, and of course I'm getting ready to record that very soon, so that way it'll be in the studio and have it recorded, and that way I'll be able to not only have it recorded, but to where it would be on YouTube as well as iMusic. So just waiting on a go with that, to go to a studio where I know it's going to be done right and handled professionally. To when it's time for us to put it out there, the people will be able to listen because you got to remember now the way things are done now, technology wise, they don't use CDs and cassettes anymore. So the
Right,
people go by the liking of how the song is. And if you like the song, of course, you'll see it on the YouTube or whatever, showing how many people liked it and how many people commented on it.
right. So I really appreciate you showing up here today because, you're my first guest. So as I told you this morning, I was so nervous. I mean, my hands are like moist. I mean, I'm never nervous like
You're
this, but
doing an
I'm just
outstanding job. You're doing an outstanding job.
thank you. Yeah, so I just appreciate you being here. The goal here is just to elevate and let people know about people right in their own backyard that have great gifts that are giving back to the world in the way that God has blessed them. And I just appreciate you for being here. I do want to go ahead and give the watchers and the listeners an opportunity to get some of your information here. So, but also, I'd like to know, I guess, if you have a phone number or a website, or if someone wants to book you, Melvin, how do they book you?
Or you can go to uh, my phone number like 504-559-7529 and they can call me. It's the only thing I would ask them to do is please make sure they put a message on the phone because I don't normally answer strange calls. So if they could possibly do that, I would really appreciate it. Just, tell me their name and their number, and then, then I'll call them back and get back with them as soon as I can to let them know if I'm able, to make whatever event that we have.
And so, before, I really can't let you go before. What kind of events have you been doing? Because you mentioned some of the concerts, but I think you do weddings and
I do
huge
weddings, I
other.
do conventions, I do it all, parties, the whole nine yards. Even when it comes to political people that, ask me, to play for them when they are trying to be in as far as in office. Like I did a thing just recently for the Democratic Party in New Orleans with State Representative Troy, as well as Cleo Fields, State Rep, of course, asked me to play for the Democratic Party for the Bayou Classic last year, and I did that in New Orleans. However, we was doing all types of music, contemporary jazz, gospel, the whole nine yards right there in New Orleans, Louisiana. So, like I say, whether it's parties, events, churches, events, gospel festival events, whatever, I do it all.
Thank you. I think that that really helped because sometimes when people hear minister of music, they're like, oh, they're only playing gospel music. But I think they need to understand and know that you do have a range and that you're flexible and workable. So I really appreciate you, Melvin. Many blessings to you. I pray that God continues to bless you and your family magnanimously and to use you in the house of God and all around the world because people need to hear what it is that you have to share. That is bringing people to God, to His Word, and when you make these songs, these are things that stick with people. And I'll tell you real fast, I was in Dominican Republic and I was staying like in these condos, and there was this square in the middle, and in the morning I would take my walks and I would have on my gospel music, and I love to dance and I like to move, so I'm singing and I'm dancing and I'm just walking and just in the spirit, and I think that people don't understand that there's healing in the music. So what
Yes.
you do, you're a different kind of doctor, right?
Mm,
Yeah, what you're bringing to the forefront is healing for the people. So not just the word, but the music, put them together. And that's a big healing. That's the pill that you don't. That's an easy pill to swallow. Let's put it that way. You don't have to go to the pharmacy. You just go straight to the minister of music. And we appreciate you today. Many blessings. God bless you. And we hope to see you again later on down the line, where you can come back and let us know how else you've been able to bless the community with the things with the favor that God has placed on you in your life.
Let me just lastly say before we get off this line, let me just say this for the most part that everything that we do in life comes with choices. And
Mm-hmm.
the choices that we make determines our actions, abilities, as well as our uses of what we do and the gifts that God has created in us. However, we also do know that manipulation is a hell of a thing. So at the end of the day, we have to realize of what we're listening to and who's we're listening to. So when you know who you are and whose you are, that what makes the difference. Because at the end of the day, I'm looking at the man in the mirror and I'm asking him to change his ways. So when you do that, shows confidence, not confidence, that's the wrong thing. It shows confidence within yourself to say, you know what? I am what God says I am. And when you realize that, then you'll be able to move forward in life and do the things that God has called you out to do. Because it's not predicated on what man say about you, but it's what God says about you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you again. Many blessings. Hope to see you again soon. Keep us informed of where you are, what you're doing, and we'll get something together maybe 6 months from now. So let's just see where we are then.
All right.
Thank you, Melvin. Bye
All
for
right. Thank
now.
you. Bye bye.
Thank you.